Hello and welcome to Unapologetics. I am Brently, and here with me, we got some guests with me. I've got Enema Man. Okay, I didn't know that was going to be what I had to read there.
Yeah, it was a reference for Robert. He gets it.
We got Matt. How you doing, Matt? Eminem.
I'm awesome. Thanks for having me.
You bet. And we've got Robert. Robert, how we doing, man?
I'm well. I'm in Texas, and the heat is worse than what you're experiencing in Oregon or Florida.
I've heard that.
Can't do anything.
That's what you get for living someplace shitty, buddy.
I know, man. What are you doing there? Get
That's
out.
on me. That's on me.
Gotta run away. Jeez. But so this is the podcast where we read a Christian article together and we kind of discuss it as we go. And today we have, let's see, we're going to start with this article from WNG.org. And it's called An Attack on Dissent. And it's by Keisha Tony Russell, who how does she end up with two man names at the end of her name? Anyway, this sucks for her. But it's Keisha Tony Russell. It's like, and the last name's a first name too. Everything is wrong with that name. There's just too much going on there.
Yeah.
But the subtitle is Ideological Supremacy and the Suppression of Religious Education. We're on this, they're on the kick of persecution here.
Yeah. So should we break the basics of this down real quick before we dig into the article?
Sure. Yeah.
All right. So when I found this, I found what the whole argument was about. The university is called Yeshiva University, and they were a Jewish school. And as they've grown, they've branched off into also having secular curriculum. They have like a business school and a law school, and then they have their rabbinical seminary school, and both a men's school and a women's school. So it's half secular, half religious. And this entire argument is over some students wanted to form an LGBT club, and the school said no, so the students sued, and a district court in New York told the school that they had to let them have it, and then it went to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court, at least temporarily, upheld that.
Wow. Okay. So
and then the school just canceled all clubs, so they didn't have to have it.
Well, I didn't think Jewish people cared that much about this shit. I thought it was mostly like white evangelicals, WASPs, or whatever, like all that shit.
This university bills at least the religious part of the university as a modern Orthodox Jewish
modern that's like, I swear that's like a oxymoron right there. The modern Orthodox.
Yeah. So I don't think we're quite at the level of swinging chickens over their heads and wearing all black all the time, but it's
they
like
don't have like the long sideburn,
the curls. Yeah.
Sideburns.
I would imagine there are probably some students that are like that.
I mean, you're gonna have Hasidic.
That they're like, look, if you're gonna make our clubs gay, we just won't have clubs.
Right.
That was basically
Yes.
I mean, it gets that does it, right?
It's almost like, oh, the gays ruined our clubs.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think all that the students were asking for was for them to set aside a room where they could have their club meetings once a week and to make sure they weren't harassed and bullied while having their meeting.
Right. It doesn't seem like that hard of an ask. And doing that doesn't necessarily mean even that your religion endorses the LGBTQIA+. It just means that they're following the law, the anti-discrimination laws, because LGBTQIA+ people have been discriminated against like a lot. So we're trying to mitigate that. That's why that law is in place.
Well, from what I read, correct me if I'm wrong, Matt, but it wasn't that they weren't able to have the club; it's that the administration of the university wouldn't endorse it, which is still shitty. I'm just saying. I think that clarification is fair.
Okay.
It's not that
they wouldn't
restricting them from doing it.
Well, sort of. So what the school couldn't stop the students from meeting, right? I mean, they could do it in a dorm room. They could pay to do it pay out of their own pocket to do it in another place. But all the other clubs at the school get a meeting space and,
Sure.
general consideration. And it's unclear to me so far whether these students were part of the religious half of the school or they were part of the secular half of the school, but all they asked was for the same basic rights as all the other school clubs.
Can I just say it's fucking weird to have like a half and half religious, half school? Like, how do you even do that? Is the science all on the secular side, and then like theology's all on the religious side? How does that work?
Check this out. From their website, the majority of students at the university are Jewish, but many students, this is like how their yeshiva university, this is how they're being welcoming. The majority are Jewish, but many students, particularly in graduate schools, are not. And both secular and Jewish education is offered. So they're claiming that, but at the same time being completely hypocritical.
Okay, now it's starting to add up. So they want, here's the thing, they want the money from the secular, which don't get me wrong, that makes perfect sense. They're a college, they have to make a profit and everything. So they want the money from everybody while still just providing the religious schooling as well.
Yes, and I think the key here is a lot of that funding is like federal grants for the students that attend the secular half of the college.
Okay, now we're really getting there. Okay,
so now federal dollars are involved, and fairness has to be in play.
I would have actually maybe disagreed with you guys about this if they were unaccredited.
Right.
If it's a private university and they want to do whatever they want to do, that's fine. But those credits that your students get, they don't get to transfer to schools that we accredit, whether regionally, by state, by nation, by particular accredited companies, like whether it be like pharmaceuticals or English or whatever department wants to accredit. That's fine, but you don't get to transfer because you come from a school that's bigoted and you're all assholes and your students are assholes. But
they're teaching them to be assholes, it's part of the curriculum.
They have asked for, like Matt said, the financial assistance, the tax benefits. They want all the good and none of the bad. Right. But if you look anywhere throughout the Bible, you're supposed to be martyred for your faith. That's the whole point of your faith, And you don't just have to look at Christianity for martyrdom. Judaism was all about, getting their asses kicked. And even in modern history, Jews are always getting their asses kicked, whatever country they go to, and they're always being martyred. And the whole point is, hey, that's supposed to be your theme. But,
right.
You want all the good, none of the bad.
Well, shit, that's usually like the arguments that I hear. I almost want to say the most when it comes to religious arguments. They're like, people died for this, okay? It's got to be true. Because people wouldn't die for a lie, that whole line of argumentation.
Yeah, before we get... From their own website, it says, sorry to cut you off, but real quick, Yeshiva University is an independent institution chartered by New York State and is accredited in the Middle States Commission on Higher Education and several professional agencies. You got to follow the rules. I'm sorry. You sign the paper, you follow the rules. That's legal.
So let's, before we go too far, you mentioned the word accreditation. And I would like to note that in November of 2012, the Middle States Commission of Higher Education got word that their academic standards had slipped to a point where they were in danger of not being a real school, and they were threatened with having their accreditation taken away. And in 2014, they were recertified because they had brought them back up to standards, like just back up to the minimums.
Everybody made D pluses. Okay, they're all.
Yes, they are. In 2020, U.S. News and World Reports ranked them as the 97th best national university. And
97th?
In 2019, Forbes ranked them as 99th of all colleges in America. So we're not talking about the upper echelon. So, Brent, you want to go through this a little bit and look how the other side is formulating the argument for this school's position?
Yeah, let's do it. Let's jump right in. So, across America, religious schools are facing lawsuits federal investigations, and derogatory media coverage intended to pressure the schools to abandon their faith and adopt progressive ideology. Just consider Yeshiva University, a Jewish school in New York that has refused to officially recognize a LGBTQIA plus pride club. Yeshiva allowed the students to meet on campus, but it declined formal recognition because the group promotes principles that conflict with the yeshiva's religious convictions. So yeah, just getting started right from the jump here. First of all, they said an LGBTQ. That bothered me, but anyway, and maybe I'm wrong about that because maybe if you spelled out L, it'd be starting with an E. So I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong about that.
I don't think lesbian starts with an E.
Exactly, right. That's what I was thinking, right? Okay. But the group sued Yeshiva, and a New York court ordered the school to immediately recognize the club. This month, Yeshiva filed an emergency appeal with the U.S. Supreme Court, but the High Court denied the appeal, stating that the school must seek relief in the New York courts first. So they just jumped the gun and went straight up the fucking ladder, and so they're like, "No, dude, you gotta like go in order."
And I think that means that they appealed on the shadow docket too. So even with their ability the Supreme Court's ability to backdoor, they still got denied.
Wow. Okay. See, I didn't even know that was a thing. All right. Wow. That's fascinating. Okay.
Yes.
Since the New York state courts found the plaintiff's argument credible, it is an ominous sign for how other courts in this state will treat Yeshiva's case. So to justify this legally, or to justify this legal subjugation of religious institutions, the culture's influencers often make a chilling analogy. Justice Samuel Alito saw that false analogy and prophetically declared in his dissenting opinion in Obergefell that the erroneous comparison between religious Americans who believe in traditional marriage, and white supremacists who denied equal treatments for blacks will be exploited by those who are determined to stamp out every vestige of dissent. His warning proved precedent. This false comparison ignores a fundamental distinction, racial discrimination, established a caste system in America where blacks were subservient to whites by government mandate. But religious schools that decline to accept and affirm the sexual orthodoxy do not have the power or intent to force any such caste system on the larger society. Wow, that's a stretch.
That section made my brain hurt. So the Obergefell decision, just so everybody knows, is the decision that gave same-sex couples the right to marry.
Yeah, they can get married. Yep. And it's so weird that they're sitting there acting like it is different because it's actually not. These people, the Stonewall riots, like these people have been mistreated, had been beaten up, had been, just, they've moved faster, I think, as far as like social justice goes than most people, but that's because they have white men. But other than that, like they have been mistreated. Absolutely. They get kicked out of their home. They make up a disproportionate size of the homeless population because of that. There's abuse and stuff there. So we have to take a special interest in protecting them. That's the whole point. So, but basically Alito said that it was a false analogy, saying that you can't have like, you don't compare white supremacy to people that are bigoted against the LGBTQIA plus because it's so different because, white people are the ruling class and black people are like subjugated and all this stuff. But it still is the same because you had gay people, I mean, not this exactly the same, of course, but you still had gay people like hiding and shit. They weren't allowed to be who they were publicly.
Yeah. And that was a dissent. That opinion lost because it was wrong.
Right. Yeah. See, okay. Right. That's a good point because he was one of the few that had the dissenting. Okay, so now I see what they're saying. So that was a dissenting opinion, but at the time it went through. Okay, I got you.
Yes.
and he's wrong because he's wrong. That's just that's this group of people are being mistreated, and we have to protect them. We have to take a special interest in protecting them because bigots have taken a special interest in harming them. That's how that
Yes.
works.
Yeah. And providing them the base level of recognition that their club officially exists is not a high bar to clear. This is not
Yeah.
worth a Supreme Court case,
No, absolutely not.
especially if you're going to be taking federal money. You get the money, you have to say the club exists. If you don't want the money, you can do whatever the fuck you want.
Yeah, I mean,
Does it feel weird at all that we're critiquing one super marginalized group of people that are marginalizing another marginalized group of people? You know what I mean? Like I'm not saying like what we're saying is wrong. It's just, isn't that weird? It's almost like as if like there was like a rap battle between like a guy in a wheelchair and you know like a like I'm just saying like it's a bizarre scenario. Am I crazy? I don't know.
No, I think you're right. And I think that's purposeful because there's plenty of other cases where they have discriminated against the LGBTQIA plus community that they could have referred to and they didn't. They're like, oh no, let's get the Jewish school. Of course, because they fucking hate Jewish people.
Yeah.
Well, this was so surprising to me because, like I said, like usually Jewish people are like on the left. They're usually like super cool with everybody,
Except the Orthodox portion.
Yeah, okay, yeah, that's true. Yeah,
they're
right.
very conservative.
Wow, okay, that's so interesting. So I guess a lot of the Jewish content creators that I watch are not Orthodox. That's right?
Yeah, they're culturally Jewish.
Oh, okay.
At least that's the way I've always interpreted it.
I had this boss, and he was Jewish. And my background's always been fundamentalist, so like fundamentalist, evangelical. So we always referred to Jews as Israelites because that's how they're referred to in the Old Testament. And I'm like, so you're like an Israelite, right? And he's like, yeah, we don't really use that term. That's kind of offensive, almost like the N word or something. Like, we are Israeli. I'm like, oh, okay. I'm like, so that means you appeal to all the Jewish doctrine. He's like, nah, we don't do that. He's like the higher ups, like the higher financial people in the groups, like we're not Orthodox, like we don't do that, like we're just cultural. So I think that's probably a lot of what we might see as presented, in the media or what have you, controlling Hollywood, the narrative. But still, like what we typically see out there are the aristocracy of the Jews, but the Orthodox ones, they're fucking crazy.
they're just like Orthodox Christians.
They get just as crazy as we do.
Wow.
From our culture.
Right.
When you were talking about calling them Israelites, I got this amazing idea in my head of watching Mormons go to an Indian reservation and walk around calling people Lamanites.
Yeah.
And getting their ass kicked.
Oh, yeah, like, Mormons are awful.
Like, layman, your great granddad. Like, no, we don't know that motherfucker.
Remember at the time before it's not made up, you're made up. That's your stuff's the wrong made up stuff.
You're Jews, remember?
Yeah.
He told you all to wear denim all the time. Like,
no, we've always worshipped multiple gods, man. Nope, none of that. Jesus.
All right. What do we got next, guys?
So, rather because of the legal coercion increasingly imposed on religious Americans who remain true to their convictions, religious institutions are threatened with being sent to the bottom of the social order if they dare dissent to the new ideology. Yeshiva is the latest religious institution experiencing legalized ideological supremacy. It will not be the last. So
AKA, if you're publicly a dick to somebody, we all get to shame you and tell you you're a dick.
That is true. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
it's just, we don't like bullies, at large.
Right. And it's so interesting when they try to flip it like this and be like, oh no, the bully is actually the one being bullied by literally all the people that aren't bullies. That's what's happening here. But to enforce its demands on yeshiva, the New York court twisted the law and ignored the explicit religious exemption stated clearly within the New York anti-discrimination statute. Consequently, the court treated Yeshiva University as a place of public accommodation, contradicting the principle behind the civil rights laws. So that's bullshit right there. That's just completely wrong.
Yeah.
You don't get to be a bigot. You don't get to fucking say that black people can't shop at your store because you're a Christian, man. You can't fucking do that. I don't care how much you think it's part of your religious tradition. You can't fucking do it.
Well, unless you are a religion only store and you don't take any federal dollars.
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't even think you, as long as you're open to the public. Well, I mean, I guess they did have that cake thing. Oh God, gross.
Yeah, that one's in limbo a little bit, but
because that's bullshit. If your business is open to the public, you gotta serve the public, because we've had too many times in the past when people, and you all you got to do is not say, you can like even not serve somebody for literally any other reason. But these idiots are so fucking prideful, they have to sit there and go, oh no, it's because we don't serve gay people. Oh no, it's because we don't serve this group or black people or whatever. They have to say that it's that group. Like,
what if you're a Jewish cake company and a Nazi wants you to put a swastika on their cake?
That's political speech. It's not protected.
Right. That's different.
That's built into the law.
Yeah. That's why, because, and that's the thing too, it's also being private, like personally made for that individual, which the whole cake thing wasn't. He was just they were just trying to buy a cake at that facility or at the cake shop. So it's different in that regard. But the thing is, you can actually say, I'm not going to make it for you for any reason. You can say any reason that you want. The only thing you can't do is say, I don't make any cakes for any gay people at all. That's what you're not allowed to do. And that's what they did.
So are you saying it's okay for a Jewish cake company to reject a customer based on what they want on their cake, but it's not okay for a bigoted homophobe to reject a customer based on what they want on their cake?
So
yes.
The way the law is written,
granted, we're arguing something I think that's over a decade old, but you brought up cake. I'm sorry.
I know.
You pulled me into this.
So the way the law was originally written is that if you make wedding cakes, anybody can come in and buy a wedding cake. But if somebody came in and ordered a Nazi cake, that's not protected because that's political speech. If you were a company that made Nazi cakes, you would have to make a Nazi cake for anyone. but free speech does not cover political speech and discrimination. So if you're not a Nazi cake company and somebody asks you to make a Nazi cake, you could tell them no, and that is not a violation.
Right.
And plus, you can say no for any other reason. You can be like, no, we're too crowded today. No, we're doing this. I just don't have the time or whatever. But when you say, no, I don't make cakes for you people, like whatever the you people is, that's where you're not allowed to do that.
I don't make cake for Nazis. I think that's a fair. I wouldn't make a fucking cake for a Nazi. I'd tell them to get the fuck out. Right. I'm just saying, like,
it's also not a protected class. But yeah,
I mean, Nazis are not protected class. LGBTQ is a protected class
because it's political.
I mean, because they've been discriminated against, and people have taken a special interest in making sure that they don't have the rights that they deserve, and so that's why we have to take a special interest in protecting them.
You can't say because they've been discriminated against. It's not feelings; it's law. But if we're saying that because it's political, that's not a protected class, I would say that's probably fair. But the reason Nazis haven't been discriminated against, of course they have,
because they haven't. But I mean, because you're not born a Nazi. You're not born a Nazi.
I'm not dying on that hill. I'm just saying, like, of course,
you decide to be a Nazi.
You can't fly a swastika anywhere. Like, of course, Nazis have been discriminated against. That's a silly thing to say they haven't been.
Well, you can't. How do you discriminate against somebody who does? No, I got you. But I'm just saying, how do you discriminate against somebody who discriminates against people? That's the point. is one they basically violated the universal imperative because they are it's like where they say to be tolerant of the intolerant. That makes no fucking sense.
But you're just changing the rules.
It's a
Either
no,
they
it's
are or they aren't discriminating against. I'm saying they are, and I'm saying they should be,
Good.
but you can't
I don't
say
think
that
you
they
could use the
aren't.
word discriminate. I feel like that's a wrong word for that.
Yeah,
Well,
I
they're
feel like it's a that's an
The pro-
equivocation.
protective
We're in the weeds.
classes.
We're in the weeds.
Protective classes are made up to protect people that are basically things that you can't change about yourself: sex, race. You choose to be a Nazi. That's not protected.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Fair
I
enough.
chose to dress up as a
it's
clown
political.
before I went in. I made that choice. They can say they don't serve clowns. That
Yeah.
not a protected class.
Exactly.
I think the clown argument has solved the whole dilemma.
All right.
The famous clown rebuttal has won the case.
Okay. Here we go. So, students attend religious schools because they want an environment that infuses the educational with the spiritual. Okay. I don't even. I feel like that's just that's a dumb statement right there in the first place because educational and spiritual you can't combine those things because there's nothing spiritual about education.
No, and the schools are separate because you can't take federal money to get a seminary degree. That's not what federal education dollars are for. The entire reason they have a legit side of the school is to pay for the seminary.
See, yeah,
That's the funding source, is all those federal dollars and student loans propping up their religious school. And if you're going to take those dollars, you're fucked.
yeah.
Exactly. It's a scam. It's a scam.
Yeah.
And this revealed their bigotry.
Yeah, and if they would just keep quiet about it, they would have been fine. If they would have just been like, "Yeah, you can have your club." I mean, how benign, a fucking club, just Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
And it's, again, it's like an interpretation of their book. So you could just say that gay people aren't actually hated in the Bible because they interpret it a certain way. Anyway, that's the whole thing. But because this is all just nonsense and we're just making shit up anyway. But consider the quintessential anti-discrimination bill, the Civil Rights Act of 1964, which was passed to address the government-sanctioned racial discrimination. The Civil Rights Act prevented discrimination against minorities in places where a state possessed monopoly power. Famous cases like the Heart of Atlanta Motel versus the United States cited discrimination against Black people in transient accommodations, such as hotels, restaurants, theaters, recreational areas, and other public accommodations and facilities. Notably, the New York anti-discrimination law that the court interpreted in Yeshiva's case was passed a year after the Civil Rights Act and used very similar language.
What does that even mean? Are they saying that they're like black people now, so they should get the right to do anything they want?
But they're the ones literally having the power. They're like, oh, it's the people that monopolize the power. Like, that's you in this situation. You're the one with the fucking school, man.
Yeah, you're the Heart of Atlanta Motel.
Yeah, like, what are you doing? Like, that's you. Like, Jesus. It's amazing how they can flip it in their mind because they're always the underdog good guy in their mind, but I don't know. It's just crazy the way that they do this. And it's sad too, because, and I feel bad because like Keisha Tony Russell is a Black woman. So she's trying really hard to connect these things.
Yes, she is.
And it's not really connected in any way, shape, or form, but she's trying though, and she's pushing it. So here, let me finish this up. So moreover, protecting private association is one key reason why religious institutions were historically exempt from public accommodations laws. As NYU law professor Richard A. Epstein, that's unfortunate to have that last
unfortunate.
name, notes a private schools like Yeshiva, not only is there a complete absence of monopoly power, but there is also a concern with internal operations that just does not arise in the earlier civil rights cases. but you do have the monopoly. Like, you're the one with the power. You're the one deciding who gets to have a thing at your school or not. It's your school. You're the one with the power.
Yeah, that's all
Jesus.
gobbledygook. That didn't mean anything.
No, it really doesn't. They're just trying so hard to flip it when it's actually exactly in reverse. In other words, students want to attend university very different than yeshiva are free to do so, but yeshiva university should also be free to serve its religious purpose in peace. What?
Great. So the yeshiva university is the seminary school, but here is a list of all the other schools that they're lumping together under the name of yeshiva college. They have the Benjamin Cardoza School of Law, so a law school.
They have
Should
a
that
fucking
one be
law
exempt?
school.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well,
Stern College for Women, Sims School of Business. Should their business school also be able to say this club can't exist? The Wurzweiler School of Social Work.
Jesus.
What else? Jewish Studies, Jewish Education Administration, School of Psychology. Should they be the School for Mental Health? Should that be able to discriminate against who they allow to have mental health care?
Well, I mean, how do you even teach psychology without fucking acknowledging that LGBTQIA plus folks have like psychological issues that are different from other, mental health issues, and that they are constantly, depressed. I mean, not that it's a mental health issue. I'm just saying that they have like mental health issues because of the discriminatory nature of, people like this. And then they're going to teach psychology too. Like, how does that even work?
Yeah, they've got a lot of stuff here that does not qualify for religious protection and is separate.
No. Right.
You can't sort of separate. They're all owned by the same entity, but one's run secular. And if you have that, it sucks. Sucks for you.
We caught them in a money game. They want to take the money from the Orthodox people and saying like, hey, we are the real deal. And we're not letting in gays or any of these crazies, But then at the same time, they want the money from the government. They want accreditation from different organizations, and they don't want to have any accountability at all. They're just a bunch of hucksters.
Yeah, they're literally trying to have to eat their cake and also take it with them home. And I don't know if you've ever worked in a corporate world. You're not allowed to do that. You eat your cake right there, or you take a piece home. You don't do both. Okay, that is the rules.
That's right. And if you take it home, you can make sweet love to it, but you can't do it there.
It's like, but this is
any bigotry about associating Jewish people with being money grubbers. I don't want to say that's my point. I'm just saying that's what it is in this case. I'm not saying that applies to all Jewish people.
No, yeah. This is again, I think, why they use.
Thanks a lot, Matt. You put me in this situation.
You're right.
This is why they use that school specifically, I think, because they're trying to take a marginalized group.
I just realized I think at one point I just said they're money grubbers, and this whole thing.
Oh yeah, that's I didn't even pick that. Wow,
I feel awkward now. I don't mean that in that way.
No,
I mean it like we don't like religions, not like anti-Semitism.
No, this one facility. This one facility.
I talked myself into a hole here.
All right, let's move on to the next one. We're going over time.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's see. So the theme of today's episode is made up persecution, basically.
Yes.
Because not only are they being forced not to be able to dissent in that regard, but they're also being silenced on social media. I don't know if you noticed that, but religious people aren't allowed to talk at all on social media.
And they never wave it around and call you a cuck when you disagree with them ever either.
Jesus, yeah. Man, the cuck thing is that's bothersome. It's a legitimate fetish. And I'm not even, I'm gonna not get.
And it's strongest in red states. Let's face it.
No
Blue
shit.
states like lesbians, and red states like cuck porn, and it's just how it is.
That's so
Is
funny.
that a stat, or are you just making jokes? Like I would believe it if you told me.
I think it's a
I saw
Pornhub
a map.
stat.
Yeah, I
Well,
saw a map
That's the thing.
at
Like
one
I
point.
saw like there's more porn in red states than blue states, but there's
Yeah.
more cuck stuff, like cuck porn, cuckoldry in red states.
Yeah, I'm looking it up. You guys continue. I will report in just a second.
I think Brent like he left and went to get a large scroll of like data. He's like, yes, I have this. He opened up a safe that requires turning a crank and pulled out all the cuckoldry stats that he's been saving.
What? I think you lost Matt on that one. He was like,
Oh, I wasn't paying attention.
that's what I was saying. Yeah. Thanks for confirming it.
All right. This time from prophecynewswatch.com, which I was alarmed to find out that was a domain name. That one hurt
I
my
love
soul.
Oh man, I'm so glad that you found that because that's exactly the type of like stuff I've been looking for this. So good, kudos. Holy shit!
That popped up at the top of the search engine search too. I didn't have to dig for this one at all. But article entitled "New California Social Media Law Expected to Further Quash Christian Views Online."
Oh,
let's hear what the claim is.
okay.
On September 13th, 2022. Governor Gavin Newsom of the Golden Liberal State of California signed a nation-leading Social Media Act, AB-587, into law that was created by California Assembly member Joseph Gabriel, Democrat from Encino. The law will enact in 2024 and will forever alter the course of American ideologies. Henceforth, social media companies, businesses, schools, and other community sites that put forth such platforms will be severely monitored. Any company or persons using social media to express opinions that explicitly contradict those established as agreeable by local and national governing bodies will be liable for permanent censorship, fines, and potential persecutions. So, wow. Brent, did you do any fact checking on this article at all?
No, I didn't.
Wow. I only went to one place, and nothing that they just stated is true. So
really, me fucking surprised.
Yeah. Openstates.org. If you go and you can look up any bill there, and it'll have a basic description of what it does. And this bill does two things. First of all, it heavily monitors companies that are profiting off children creating accounts and selling of the data of minors, which is a good thing. I don't really want my kids' data sold off. And do you have kids, Brent?
No, I don't.
Okay.
But yeah, I agree with you. I don't want your kids' data stolen. I don't want that to happen. That's
let's keep children's personal information off the open marketplace. That seems like a good idea. But the main part of the bill is that it just states that if your website or social media platform can be accessed in the state of California, it clearly has to post the terms of service somewhere. You have to file a report with the state of California that this is our terms of service. And then if there are violations by users of those terms and services, you have to keep statistics on that and sometimes specifics if those are egregious. And then the state gets to look at your records about what you're doing about it.
Okay. Well, that makes perfectly, it makes good sense. It's right.
Yeah. So if your company and its rules says you can't post Nazi stuff on our website, they have to keep track of all the Nazi stuff they take down and report back to the state. Yeah, we found some Nazi stuff and we took it down.
Right. So it's kind of like they're like little teeny tiny bureaucracies, right? Like they got their own little, like Disney World or something. Like they have their own like little rules. And if you break, if you do break the rules at Disneyland, if you like pee in the corner instead of the bathroom, you get asked to leave Disney World, right?
Yeah.
So it's
The
sort of like that.
Yeah, but the state's asking that the companies that say they have specific rules are actually enforcing the rules, and rules that affect the other customers' user experiences. So
Okay, I see what you're saying.
yeah,
Yeah.
if you say you can't go on our website and call people the N word, here's our term on that, and this is proof that we actually enforce that rule instead of just saying it and then hosting a place where people can do that anymore.
And then it's 8chan, you know, and it's like,
Yeah.
Okay, I got you.
Yeah, I mean,
just basically holding them to their own standards, basically.
Yeah, and it's sort of up in the air about what they could really do about it, but it's just them collecting data on sites claiming they're not 8chan and making sure they don't turn into it.
Okay, fair enough. Okay, I got you.
Yeah, and that's really all the bill does. That's it.
Wow. Well, they kind of made it seem like it did something else.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Yep. They
like specifically about Christians.
Yeah.
Religious people.
The state doesn't even know what they're going to do about it yet. They're going to put together a commission to brainstorm on it and come up with ideas on what to do about it, and they'll determine what they're going to do at a later date.
Wow, okay.
This is just notice that they're going to start taking a look.
Okay, well, that's good, I guess. Jesus.
Yeah, I don't know about you, but I like the websites I go to be free of hate speech. And
yeah, you know, it kind of makes for a less shitlordy kind of time, and you can actually accomplish the things that you're generally trying to do without, you know, getting troll bombed with a million different bigoted people.
And as an avid meme fan, I could definitely see this going too far, but this seems like the infancy of us making sure the internet's a place where everybody can play.
Yeah, because I mean, honestly, I think it's funny because, like, you know, I was just talking the other day about like people from the future looking at us and like, oh, you're from the time before they had rules for the internet, you know. That seems like that's our generation. So, oh yeah, we moved past that, kept radicalizing people, and that wasn't good, so we had to do something about that, you know.
Yeah. It is too. I do feel for my kids because, like, I was from the early days of the internet where it solely existed as a place to make people angry on purpose.
Right. Yeah.
But it was real innocent in the 90s. We were just, you know, just fucking with people.
They weren't taking your face and putting it on like gay porn or anything like that.
Yeah, nobody was being tracked. We weren't trying to radicalize anyone. We just you know, you just wanted to get a rise out of somebody, but it is so far past that now. And somebody's got to make sure that.
And the rules are good. Like, that's okay.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't want the fucking internet version of the Wild fucking West, you know? It's just not, it's not fun.
Yeah.
But so their argument is that, while you and I and people like us, and I think they'd agree, that we don't want a Wild West internet, right? But they're trying to say that the monitoring is targeting religious people more than not. Is that correct?
That appears to be what they're claiming.
Okay.
I guess a lot of what they're going after maybe is like vaccine misinformation and like, because almost all of it is spread online and from just a very few sources. And you know, and I don't know what you do about that, really. How do you go after liars? Because,
like, here's the thing: if you have a Venn diagram of like extremists, right, and then COVID vaccine misinformation, and then you got bigots like Nazis and stuff like that. Christianity's in the middle of that fucking Venn diagram. That's the center where they all fucking connect. And Christianity
is the justification for all of them.
Yeah, because that's what people use Christianity for. I hate to say it, but that's literally what it's there for a lot of people. It's just, here's how I justify the shit that I do that's fucking terrible, you know? And you can find a verse in there for that, like pretty much anything. It doesn't really matter. I can find a verse that says it's okay to kill my kid, You know,
Yeah, you can.
they talked back or drank, so therefore I get to kill them. Like it's
Yeah.
you know, so yeah, it's and they're like, but why is this happening to us? And it's like, well, you just sort of this is a correlation versus causation type of thing. Like you just happen to be correlated with all of the shit things that people do and think.
That's interesting. Like I've been part of the skeptic and atheism community for a long time, but you don't really think about it very often, as yet Christianity just is that hinge point for just the worst members of society to justify everything they do.
Yeah, I mean, cool. I think because it's a method of thinking that allows you to be manipulated very easily. And the people that are generally trying to manipulate people are trying to get them to hate the people that they want them to hate. That just tends to be, what manipulators want their manipulated people to do. And Christianity is perfect for that because they've basically set up a system where it's unreasonable to believe in demonstrable science like evolution, but it's it's unreasonable to believe in it's reasonable, I'm sorry, to believe in a talking donkey. So with that sort of epistemic standard, you can just it's all up for grabs, man. They can just tell you to do whatever they want. And you're like, oh, I don't know. You know?
And there's justification for pretty much everything in that book.
Yeah. And it's
some good, mostly bad.
Right. I mean, dude, and the time that really kind of stuck out to me, because I'm fairly new. I'm new to the skeptic community, pretty much about like the past 5 years or something like that. And the one that really stuck out to me was Jeff Sessions when he came out and was like, the reason that we're putting kids in cages, I'm going to read a Bible verse. And then he read a Bible verse. And, he's like, you got to obey the government because Jesus said. And then everyone's like, oh, okay, well, I guess we can't get mad about the kids in cages. Like, what the fuck? They're just being manipulated by the thing you need to think is true, man. Like, that's so clear. Like, it's obvious. What are you doing?
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyway.
And I hate to say it, but the good, more liberal Christians are part of the problem. I had dinner with my mom 2 nights ago, and she's one of those sort of like middle of the road nice Christians, and I made a comment about how evil using the Bible as justification was, and she questioned things that could be justified, and I said, well, slaughtering children, and she's like, that's not in the Bible. And all I had to do was type in dash them against the rocks, and the Bible verse came right up. It translated in 20 different ways. They all say the same thing in different words. Yeah. And she shut down real quick because it's right there. You can justify anything using that book.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's even isn't that the Old Testament? Because I mean, the one that I was pointing to was even the New Testament too. So I mean, you have it in both fucking testaments, like killing your own children.
Yeah.
So yeah, because a lot of times they'll do the Old Testament doesn't count, that was written to the Jews, type of thing.
Or when Jesus came back, he made that not count anymore. But most of the people that use that argument to say we don't have to look at all that bad stuff will still use the Old Testament to be anti-gay.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Like the most. Yeah, you're absolutely right. Because the Old Testament's got the worst ones, I think.
By far. But they still, when it's convenient, look back on that Old Testament and use it.
Always. Yeah. Yeah, you're absolutely right.
The Revolutionary Act is a historic first of its kind. Clearly, the new law directly violates Americans' age-old First Amendment rights of the American Constitution regarding freedom of speech, and is promoted as a wonderful idea that will protect children in vulnerable communities. Communities highlighted by California Assemblymember Jesse Gabriel were women, people of color, members of the LGBTQ community, Jews, and other religious minorities and immigrants. So basically, if these websites claim you can't have hate speech and they allow it, then they're going to be held liable for letting those people talk there. So
that's their argument for being like, I'm actually being persecuted by you not allowing me to persecute people. Okay.
But everyone on this list that they're trying to protect are all actual protected classes. So you're really mean because we can't go after people that already are supposed to be on the protected list, and because we can't be dicks to them, you're persecuting us.
Right. It's again, it's the tolerance of the intolerance. What do you call it? Paradox. You know, you can't have that. It's like Jesus.
Yeah. Let's see. This section is them talking about vaccine misinformation. Okay. The new California social media law has been marketed to the public to protect Californians from online hate, disinformation, harassment, and extreme opinions. But the unanswered question that remains is, what are extreme opinions? What is disinformation? What are undeniably tumultuous, albeit virtually impossible to specify? I'm sorry, both are. We're figuring that out. This bill is the beginning of trying to figure that out, which seems completely reasonable to me.
Yeah, and it's not impossible to figure out because we figured we can figure it out, man. And like that we can figure this out. We have to figure this out. It's required for a safe fucking internet experience in any way, shape, or form. Like we have to be able to figure this out. If we can't, we're fucked. This is just it's gonna end up in fucking 8chan as every goddamn thing. You know, which nobody wants that. And they know they don't want that. And they don't want to say that.
Nobody wants an internet that's wrapped in bubble wrap either. But
right. That's true.
We want an internet that has a little bit of danger to it. Life can't be totally safe. But yeah, you can't dox people of protected classes. You can't talk people into anti-science on purpose. We're figuring out those lines, and it's important. This next section is pretty funny. Perhaps a simple definition of the new law would read, you better not write, endorse, or even mention anything that goes against the status quo, such as anything that contradicts, quote, woke, abortion rights, women's rights, black rights, Hispanic rights, rapper rights. I don't know. That's weird. Mental illness or LGBT plus beliefs, or anything of the sort that is in defiance of God's laws. If you do, your social media rights will be terminated. You will be fined and or persecuted, fired, and or your business shut down. Well, that's pretty extreme. So again, you can't attack anyone of a protected class. Oh no, or we'll take your business away. You know what it would. The state of California cannot shut down Twitter. That's not possible.
Absolutely not.
But they could force Twitter to sort of make sure that the worst of the worst aren't constantly harassing people online. I think that would be a positive.
And wow, rapper rights. That's incredible. I mean, wow. Like way to tell me you're racist by not telling me that you're racist. Like, but that is, because they're like black rights, and then they're like rapper rights, like after like Hispanic rights. So like it's it's like, come on, fuck you, man. What the hell? Like, what the hell are you doing here? Like, we got to be able to violate all these people's rights. Obviously, what do you? That seems to be the case they're making. Is like, we're allowed to fuck with these people, right? Am I right? Up top, let's do it. Like, what do you?
So far in this article, they've already made a list of people that you can't quote unquote harass and make fun of under this law. But besides the quote unquote woke, and I read that as it was typed, or the rapper rights, everything they've listed so far is people of marginalized groups.
Yeah.
Everything on here is actual legally protected already. So this law just makes sure that they remain protected. And there might be some consequences at some point down the road if you continue to trash them.
Yeah. I mean, which that makes perfect sense to me. You have to, be able to, if it's in law in reality, why would it be any different online? Because as much as everybody likes to say, Dave Chappelle included, that Twitter isn't real, it actually is. It's a real thing that exists, and people can get harmed through it.
So. It is.
Jeez.
And you would still, I'm imagining here, but you could still be free to write a Facebook post that simply read, I don't really like gay people. That's not hate speech.
No,
But going after individuals with harassing and threatening language is,
that's a whole nother level. Yeah.
yeah. And the fact that they will not be allowed to do that is not persecution.
No, absolutely not. It's just stopping extremists and, keeping these extremists from mobilize, like, because that they've used the internet too many times to basically mobilize. And the Unite the Right was all because of the internet, basically. And they all found each other and then all decided to meet up at a place at a time. So, that's the type of stuff we're trying to avoid.
Yeah. Yeah, isn't it weird that everybody's crazy uncle that believed in lizard people they almost didn't exist because they were all just single people roaming around, but
right.
now they all congregate together and they're a problem.
Yeah, and now, it's actually a problem because they're, did you know it's only the Jewish ones, by the way, too. It's not the regular rich people. It's just Jewish ones. They're lizard people. Because you're like, is Trump a lizard person? Oh no, Trump's not a lizard person. What? He's a billionaire. Well, no, talking Rothschild, Bilderberg, and then just start naming Jewish names, basically. But
Yep.
It's like,
yeah,
God, sad.
yeah. Oh well, man. Let's see if there's anything else in this article worth reading. I don't think they're
Right.
Closing note. Sadly, those who uphold God's laws and traditional moral values have been and will further be demonetized and associated with true extremists who vehemently oppose God's law when this state law takes effect. Yeah.
Jesus. Persecution complex is real, man. Holy fuck. They want to be, it's like they want so badly to act like they have a thing. Because it's honestly, it's written in their religion. You know what I mean? Like, it's part of their belief system is martyrdom, right?
Yeah.
So I get what, but and then they see like the fact that a lot of us have compassion for people that have actually been oppressed. And they're like, I want that. Why can't they do that for me? Like, I want a month, a history month. Why isn't there Christian history month? Or whatever. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
They just
How many times have we seen some neckbeard post on social media? Why can't there be a white history month?
Right. Oh my good God, how embarrassing. Like, every month is White History Month, man. Like, clearly, other than like 2.
Yeah.
I guess like Black History Month and Latin History Month, right? Which is what we're in, by the way, everybody. A happy Latin History Month.
I didn't know that. That's fantastic.
Oh, yeah, I just found that out the other day. Yeah, that's this month. But it's sad, and they're just like, oh, but we should get a thing, and it's like, you get all the things already. You've always had all the things. Like, what are you doing?
Yeah, the fact that somebody else also has things does not mean you have less things.
No, it just means they have a thing too. It's like, and we can all have a thing.
Yeah. We can all own a red Corvette if we really want to.
Right? Yeah.
The fact that I have one doesn't mean you can't have one.
No, exactly. Yeah.
All right, man.
Well, hey, thank you so much for hanging out. And this has been Unapologetics. Please make sure to share the show with your friends and give us 5 stars wherever you can rate any podcast. And make sure to go to patreon.com/unapologetics and give us your money and do that. But we have this sign off, right? Where we say, what do we say? Well, basically, I ask us what we're going to say fuck off to, and then we both say fuck off together. Okay?
Okay.
Okay.
How does this work?
Okay, so I say, what do we say to the haters, discriminators, and masturbator shamers? And we say, fuck off.
All right. you had to teach the controversy. If you have to teach the controversy for other subjects, you have to do it for the Holocaust too. How the fuck do you both sides the Holocaust?
Yeah, and I think I remember seeing that video because all the teachers were like, how do you teach the other side of the like from the Nazis' perspective? Is that what
Yeah.
it is? That what it is?
What's our source? Like
Yeah.
Stormfront.com? I don't know.
Mein Kampf or whatever the Mein Kampf. Wasn't that his book? Mein Kampf?
No, it's
What is it?
mine.conf.
Mein.conf.
www.mine.com.
Okay, you're fucking with me now because I can't remember the name of it.